We are going to go ahead and begin our post-race media availabilities. We are now joined by our race-winning crew chief, Rudy Fugel. Rudy, congratulations. You guys started the race strong, finished with a win. Can you talk to us a little bit about your race?
Yeah, no, William did a great restart, and got the lead, I think, after lap one. And we set sail and did well. Ended up getting beat off pit road. Pit stall one had a lot to do with that. 5 qualifying on the pole was big for them. We were just outmatched a little bit on pit road to the first couple, never could get it back. So from there, we were tighter in traffic, tried to work on it to make it freer, and got way too free in stage 3. So we got adjustment in on the green flag pit stop, and we were okay again, just too far behind. So, but 2 weeks in a row we get that caution, and pit crew did a good job getting us out on the front row, and William did an awesome job. Got a second chance at it, second chance at a restart, and did an amazing job, and we won the race.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and open it for questions. We'll start right over here and then come down to Wolfgang.
Jonathan Field, the racing experts, ESPN Radio Albuquerque. Again, it was you and the 5 out in front today. Without giving out too much, what do you think you guys have hit on that have allowed you to have success?
Yeah, just a little bit of everything. Specifically, 2014 is focused in the simulation program all off season. We worked really hard, especially on Las Vegas and in Phoenix, because they're super important in the playoffs. And we had fresh information. So we ran out Vegas with 4 to go, and Phoenix, obviously the last race of the year. You re-race them early in the year, so it makes sense to work on those. Those were most of our focus to start with, and then hope to take notes from these 2 races to propel ourselves to the first third half of the year.
And we're also joined by Hendrick Motorsports Vice Chairman Jeff Gordon. So if you have any questions for him, please feel free to ask as well.
First, let me just say how proud I am of this guy and this team. Nobody works harder. I mean, all these guys work hard, but over the off season, I came into the office one day. It was like was it right after Christmas?
Yeah, it was the day after.
Day after Christmas, I was over at the office, and this guy was there all by himself. So I'm so proud of these guys and the effort they're putting in and seeing the results. Sorry, go ahead.
Awesome. We'll go to Wolfgang.
Wolfgang Monzer from Germany, Rennsport Press. 2 questions, one for Jeff.
You're from Germany all these years? No, I'm just kidding.
We saw all day that during the race that Kyle had a very dominant car. Unfortunately, he couldn't win. So I suppose, like in other motorsport categories, with your crew chief colleagues, you share information, technical information. My question is, how identical are the Hendrick cars among the different drivers?
Yeah, if you get down to the nitty gritty, the last 15-20% of everything, they're a little bit different, so, but the main whole, we work together really well. I mean, Cliff and I were chatting about what strategy we were going to do. We opened in the chat multiple times if we were going to take 4 or 2, how we were going to do it. So even racing each other against the wind, fully working together. So we work together great, all 4 crew chiefs, all 4 teams. So but yeah, and then we prepare the cars. We look at each other's cars all week long and make adjustments, and then each driver is a little different. So the last 15-20% is probably
so
a
in
little bit
principle,
tailor-made.
if one Hendrick driver is struggling, you take over the setup of another driver. You can do this
For sure. Yeah, no, definitely. We're able to put most all that stuff in the car. We'd made a lot of changes their direction after Friday's practice for sure. Saturday morning came in and changed geometry and some other things to chase the 5 because they were a little bit better than us. So yes.
And one question for you, Jeff. Knowing your new position with Hendrick Motorsport, you still have time to do some races from time to time?
If I do, please stop me because I like to drive. I love to get out there and run laps, but I know I can't be as competitive as what I used to be, so I prefer not to race. But I'm enjoying this challenge, working with these guys, our marketing and PR group, and obviously Rick's been an incredible mentor to me over the years. So on the business side, working with NASCAR and tracks and others in the industry is something I'm dedicating most of my time to these days. And I also have 2 kids, and so family stuff too. But I did do a race last year that was fun, and I did, and it reminded me why I shouldn't be out there racing. Took all the fun right out of it as soon as I was 2 seconds off the pace.
We're going to go here in the back and then up to Bob.
David Hernandez from Veravisión Deportes. Quick question. So you touched on the two-wheel strategy as opposed to the four-wheel strategy. And was this strategy talked about before the race, or was there at any point during that last yell that you were saying, hey, we might call an audible and do four wheels, or?
Yeah, no, I mean, as soon as the caution came out, we were chatting. You know, we have a live chat, and we were talking about what we were going to do. So that was having that openness. You know, racing for a win and his teammates is huge, vital. We both, I think, this week I may have swung Cliff one way, and last week he may have swung me a different way at different times. So it's great teamwork.
And this was also a conversation that you were having actively with William too. Did he have an input on it, or was it just off of you?
Yeah, no. We kind of tell him what the code word we think we're going to use for that, and make sure that he's not totally against it. But we see a whole lot more of the race than he does, and we have a whole lot more of the history, So, yeah.
We're going to go to Bob and Cameron and Lee and John.
Bob Parker's Fox Sports for Jeff and Rudy, if you want to take it as well. So you have a little bit of the drama on Friday with them taking the pieces. So do you consider like winning a race on a weekend where you have maybe a little bit of distraction, more of an accomplishment, or it's just that totally kind of separate and not really in your head at all?
You're looking at me, Bob. He won the race. I'll let him answer it first.
Yeah, I mean, we have to. It's a test in mental strength, and that's just what it takes to be really good in this series. So we have to, think about what the task is, and we have to focus on this weekend. So that's what we all did.
Yeah, I'd just say, I was proud of these guys to go. I mean, this organization has a lot of depth. They've been through a lot of different experiences over the years, and to lean on those in the in different positions or leadership or crew chiefs that have been around so much, whether you're a young guy in on a team or somebody's been around, it's nice to know you can lean on one another through times like that. But I'm probably most proud of these guys went through that, and then they went out there and we had the pole third. The other two guys were fast. They just slipped up a little bit, but all four cars in the top 10 today. I think that really solidified, some of the hype and the things that were being focused on Friday, that these guys have speed in the car, and there was nothing, not last week, not this week, that was, getting them to victory lane other than a lot of hard work and great teamwork.
We'll go to Cameron.
Cameron Richardson, NASCAR.com. My question's for both of you. Maybe the consensus over the last few years is that Byron's maybe the third or fourth guy on the team, but for him to start the season with 2 wins, does that go to show that, yeah, he can carry the banner for Hendrick Motorsports? And what do you guys see in Byron that maybe you don't see in some of the other drivers?
We have 4 capable teams and 4 capable drivers of carrying the banner any weekend. So it's pretty amazing. We see it in different phases, but, in different things affect, race outcomes sometimes, and the way certain drivers race and what they're good at and good at qualifying or not and that kind of stuff. So, but week in and week out, we see it. We have 4 capable drivers, 4 capable teams. So that's amazing, but, and then William, he's the guy that he has gotten here mostly by being one of the the best at preparing during the week, and then you add the experience that he's starting to get over and over and over now, and you'll see the fruits of all of his hard work paying off. So that's what I'm super proud of him for.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, it's really, and you can look at other driver crew chief combinations and teams over the years at Hendrick, but to me, it's, especially in the perspective I have now, it's just really great to see a team mature, a team grow, a team evolve, and you see all the things that they're doing behind the scenes to get there. They didn't just show up at the racetrack and all of a sudden, bam, they clicked on it. These guys have had to work really hard to get there, and I just see a progression with William ever since he came to Hendrick. I mean, you got to remember how young he was, coming in the Cup Series, so much to learn, and even young in racing in so many ways. And then when Rudy came to Hendrick, the instant connection and chemistry between these two was so obvious, and it just took the whole team up to another notch. And I think now they're just building on that. So it's a lot of fun to watch and see.
We'll go to Lee, and then to John, and then to Dustin.
I've had two quick questions for you, Champ. First of all, Bowman scoring 4 consecutive top 10s. You have to be happy with the consistency you're seeing there.
100%. And there's another, Blake Harris coming on board, and a new combination driver, crew chief, and to see them click as early on as they have, and I think one of the reasons why that worked and kind of came to was because the confidence both Alex had in Blake and Blake had in Alex, and so it's nice to see that it's paying off for them on the racetrack.
And then Josh Berry, you were the first guy up to his car after he finished, and Alan said after his stage 2, I can see things turning around. You're really gaining on it. What have you seen? It's a tough situation for him to be in, first of all, but just to be able to step in his second start in a Hendrick car, get a top 10 is pretty solid.
Oh, I'm really impressed with today's effort, and I was on the 9 box most of the race, and it didn't start off so great, and so to see them just continue to work, through changes on the car, changes of the track conditions, and just continue to push forward. And then he was mixing it up, man. And on those restarts, he was right in the middle, 3 and 4 wide, and I was a little bit nervous, because they're pretty deep in points and needed a solid finish. And it was great to see Josh, get that, and that's going to build his confidence. I don't think anybody can explain how difficult a situation this is. I mean, an Xfinity car today could not be more opposite than what the Cup car is throughout the history that I can recall of those things being so different than they are today. So to get out of an Xfinity car and then hop into a Cup car that's so different, I think is a big, tall task. We put him in a bad situation last week, but this week I saw him putting in the effort and the time, the sim, and with the team getting fitted in the seat and just doing his homework, and it really showed up.
Go ahead, John.
John Harvin with the Circuit Journal. For Jeff, I just want to ask, what was the process like in deciding to have Josh in the car, and then also having your buddy Rodney Sandstorm at COTA? What was that process like? Like, who approached you about that?
Well, I think Jeff Andrews touched on this week. We always, and not always, but I think maybe this really started a few years ago, where you kind of have to have a backup plan because and it sort of started with COVID, but it's continued on since then. Of if something were to happen, a driver could get sick, a driver could get injured, that you have something in place that can happen immediately. Because we've gone down the path of not having a game plan, and it's really difficult to find somebody. Sometimes they're on their way home. They've already left the racetrack. You never know what it is. So, have a relationship with JRM and with, their drivers and having a backup plan in place. I think for I don't know that Josh has ever really gotten an opportunity with Hendrick before. So, that was a team decision. I think a lot driven by Alan and who he thought would fit in with their team and personality wise, and I think they're making the right decision. As far as the road course, I think the road course just opened up the door for, should we look at an option that is sort of a road racing option, and we feel confident in Josh and want to keep Josh in the car as much as possible, but we also had seen. I raced with Jordan Taylor, and he's very talented, and he's been in our Garage 56 car, showing a lot of speed, and so just the right timing and place to be able to pull that off.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports, one for Rudy, one for Jeff. Rudy, how much of a threat did you guys consider Harvick even on Friday? I know talking with Rodney, he kind of felt good and said, look, everybody's talking about the Hendrick cars, but if you looked at what happened in practice, latter part, and he said, I like not being the focus.
Yeah, I mean, we recognized him right away. I thought it was, we were doing all our comparing to the 4 and the 5. So, he might not have felt it, or people might not have been talking about him, but we knew. We were watching. So, I just felt like this was going to be his kind of race, right? If you looked at that long green flag run in stage 3, it's with no downforce. It was a bunch of dirt racers. Harvick wrapping the bottom, and William being disciplined. Yeah, wrapping the bottom. So, the discipline, for running and being really good, which, Kevin's amazing at, and then a bunch of guys that aren't afraid to, slip and slide and figure out where the grip's at. So, yeah, they did great. They've been good this year, so we're gonna have to contend with them a lot.
And Jeff, just how much of a concern is having parts taken, just even if it's for further evaluation, especially in this era where, because of the single supplier issue, that the penalties can be significantly more severe than maybe years past?
I can tell you it was weighing on all of our minds, coming into today, and certainly will continue. I mean, we had some conversations, we'll continue to have conversations with NASCAR. This is, every situation is sort of unique, but this one is a more unique one than I've seen in a while, where there's been a lot of communication back and forth on this particular part, especially for this racetrack, because they did a parity test in the wind tunnel. And so I think it really opened up the door for some miscommunication. And, I don't want to go into any further than that, but, we will continue to just share all the facts and be transparent with NASCAR as we have so far.
Are there any questions in the press box?
No questions. Thank you.
All right, we'll take one more question down here to the right for Jeff and Rudy, and we will let them go after that.
Brendan Martin, the Lumberjack. This one's for both of you guys, William and Rudy. It's the second year in a row that this 24 team is the first team with multiple wins. Last year, you got that second win in Martinsville. Now this year, much earlier in the season, you get it done at Phoenix. Just how important is it for you guys, especially now stacking up playoff points that are so important later on in the year? How important is it to sort of get this early start, and what can you do to sort of keep this consistency going further down the line this season?
Yeah, I think you gotta get the wins while you're hot. You gotta capitalize, and we've done that. So super good. Our focus is nothing different now. Hit the reset button, and how do we do it again? So put the hard work in, do the and every single day, and keep grinding. So that's our focus.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year, even though we won early, we didn't really know the car or understand the car. So we were kind of just adapting to what we had, and we were just making the most of, an unpredictable situation with the entire field. Like everyone was, there was a lot of attrition in the races and a lot of just weird things that were happening. And I feel like now it's strength on strength, and it feels different. It feels like we're more consistently towards the front, and we're leading laps, and we just want to focus on our processes during the week. I think our processes this week were kind of frustrating because we didn't really get to do the things we wanted to do, and everyone was a little tired, and we did that Charlotte test, and there was just a lot going on the outside. So it was a little frustrating going into today, but it's cool to see that we can overcome those things and still get a win.
Jeff and Rudy, thank you. Congratulations. William, we'll go ahead and continue questions with you. We'll go ahead and start in the back.
William, Chance Lancaster, Amarillo Motorsports Power Hour. We're over here. Sorry. What does it mean to you to continue to put the 24 in victory lane and carry that legacy on? It's win number 2. Just a question.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started out, it was a lot of pressure. Going into my rookie year with not having any cup starts, and I don't think you really understand the magnitude of that shift. I think everyone prepares you for it from going from Xfinity to Cup, but the level that this is just, it's so different, so many details that go into it. So that was a lot of pressure, but I think once we got a win under our belt and once we kind of got some consistency going, you stop thinking about that and you start thinking about, okay, how can we just build this team into something that we want long term. So I think it's just cool to have a group of guys around me that we've really built from the ground up with Chad, and then when Rudy took over, brought a couple more people in that I was really comfortable with and trusted, like my spotter, and it's just been a good progression.
We'll come down here to Lee, and then right here in the front.
Can you just give us your assessment of the new car and, how you felt it changed over last season?
New like aero package?
Aero package.
Yeah. I thought it was really difficult to drive. I don't, from an objective standpoint, I know we were competitive, but I didn't think we could pass any better. So there's still some work to do there with something going on just with how tight they get in traffic. But I think, I mean, yeah, they were certainly hard to drive. I think that's a good test to see who's the the best out there. I mean, Kyle's probably the most naturally talented, and I think that it just shows like the guys were having to drive their cars and manage that, and it made for a really difficult challenge inside the race car. Just how many times I slipped, and how much slip was too much, and how much was enough to keep going fast. So that was a good challenge. It kind of put our car control on display.
And can you take me through that last restart? You were on the high lane, and just all of a sudden it just seemed to thrust forward. Did you get a good push from Reddick, or did you feel unstable when he got into the back of you? Can you kind of just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we so the launch went well for me. Like I had a really good launch, no wheel spin. And at that point I was just focusing, okay, how can I get through the gears? How can I side draft Kyle? So when they all pull down to the apron, the outside guy's a bit of a disadvantage because of the distance. So just trying to stay as close as I could there, and then it's just who can beat each other to the corner without hitting the wall. So I mean, we both got in there deep, and we both were up the track, and he held me really tight there, through the middle 1 and 2, and off at 2, and there was just enough grip up there, and I think I was just far enough up on him that I was able to stay in it, and then we were obviously dragged back, and so I got that big push from Tyler down the backstretch. So that was huge. I mean, he drilled me, but we're not going that fast, so it was nice, and that kind of got me out in some clean air.
David Brandt from the Associated Press. You've won 2 races now in remarkably similar fashion. I mean, was it weird going through that? Did it feel like deja vu out there? Or what?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't counting my blessings. I was kind of like, man, it went so good last week. I'm probably gonna end up crashing here. So, just when you have that level of commitment, and you have to on a green white checkered to come out the other side, it's either gonna go really good or not. So. I don't love winning races that way. It's very stressful. It's a lot of tactics, going on with the restarts. But, it's fun. I mean, it's a good challenge for us because you're all tired and you're all into that long run mode mentally. And then you have to have a pit stop and you have to somehow reset and get into, okay, how do I get a good restart?
We'll go to Jonathan and then a Wolfgang.
Jonathan Veal, the racing experts, ESPN Radio Albuquerque. First of all, welcome back. Second of all, looking ahead to November, what were some things you learned today just that will benefit you in November?
I mean, the cars are going to change a tremendous amount, so I think that I kind of keep in the back of my mind. But as far as the balance goes, I thought we had the balance really good to start the race. I was sliding around a lot, but seemed to be sliding less than everybody else. And then just when I got back in second, the dirty air is so significant, like I just started to get tight, and so I started to contribute my issues to that, and then we just got the back out of the track, and then we had to try something to try to close that gap, but it just seemed like there was kind of a bubble there, and as soon as I was kind of hung up in second, I just focused on trying to be consistent. Maybe we get to lap traffic and something would happen, and just I think overall throughout the race there's still some work to do myself to just know what I need, and then also managing the car. Like the brakes were kind of hot, and I did a lot throughout the race messing with the brakes, and I just got them too hot doing some stuff. So just need to work on some of those technique things.
We'll go to Wolfgang and then to Bob.
Wolfgang Monser, Rennsport Press from Germany. You just said earlier the car is difficult to was difficult to drive with the new aero package. I think that's for everybody in the NASCAR Cup Series. Is there a possibility you go maybe and have a meeting with a NASCAR technical department to make improvements or to launch proposals to make the car better?
For sure. I mean, we have meetings almost every weekend, and that's been a big thing since probably the middle of last year. We've started having meetings with NASCAR, and it's been really productive. So, I definitely think we need to kind of objectively look at, was this a better race or not? That's really what it comes down to. And from my standpoint, it tests me a lot more, but there's still some element that we got to figure out with the, how tight the cars are. So I think, we'll keep working through that, and I'm open to anything. I just want us to have options as drivers. I want it to be hard to drive, but I also want to be able to pass.
But from the regulation point of view, you cannot touch the aero package. You must accept it like this or not.
I don't know. I just kind of see what they bring to the track and adapt that week. But yeah.
We'll go to Bob and then to Cameron.
Bob Pockers, Fox Sports. Was there much of a concern that you and Larson were going to wreck each other there on the last restart?
Yeah, I mean, in my situation, having a win and him not having a win yet, like I assumed he would be more aggressive. But my counter to that was, all right, I got to win. I'm gonna do whatever I can do. So it was kind of like it was a game of chicken a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of trust in Kyle. He's an amazing driver, and we've gotten to know each other off the track. I feel like we always communicate well. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how to answer that. I wasn't really thinking through that situation. I was just kind of going wherever he was and trying to be a little bit better.
Cameron Richardson, NASCAR.com. William, I asked Rudy and Jeff about, everyone in the Hendrick camp seems capable of carrying the banner. You, Bowman, Elliott, and Larson. But, maybe consensus in the past was that you were maybe the third or fourth guy because Elliott and Larson both won championships. But as the years go on, as you continue to mature, you believe in that you're capable of carrying that banner, and then start this year with 2 wins. It's got to be some validation that, you are maturing. And
Yeah, I think, the people around me have always kind of helped me understand that I'm young. My Max and my dad and just everyone. My dad especially, he's a big stats guy, so he's always looking at, he's like, man, you're young, like just give it some time. And I'm very impatient, so I like things to happen quick. So that's how it happened for me, coming up through. But this level is so different and took a lot of homework, like a lot of details and really, I think the fact that I started later than most driving was a little bit of it took some time to bridge that gap at this level. Now that gap is bridged, obviously, but I just feel like it's a constant evolution and just trying to continue to get better.
Are there any questions in the press box? Any last questions down here? Over here to the right.
Hi, William. Michael Manny of the Lumberjack. So you ran pretty much with Larson 1-2 all week in Vegas last week, a lot of today as well. 2 wins to start the year. What does that do for do you think, for your team's momentum and then just for your confidence heading into Atlanta and then the rest of the first half of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think Cliff and Rudy work really well together. So I think that's, all the crew chiefs do, but Cliff and Rudy sit next to each other, in the meetings. They spend a lot of time, and they kind of came in the Cup Series at the same time. Cliff had 1 year on Rudy, but they kind of came in with a new driver, new situation. So I feel like they get along really well. They're very different, but I feel like there's some camaraderie there. And so it's not a surprise that we're both running well. I wouldn't be surprised either, though, if all 4 of us were running well. Everyone communicates really well. So I think in some ways Kyle and I's driving style, maybe I try to adapt to whatever the setup is, and I think he kind of does the same.
Are there any final questions? All right.
Cool.
Thanks, William. Congratulations.